every single day we have 50 new RNG games coming to life, and they all look the same. Some of them are better than others, but it's the same thing. So how is one operator going to compete towards another unless they have something that nobody else have got? So I really see these ones going live first. They will capture a lot of players, and it's even without naming anyone, but just simply saying that the ones that have the slowest growth on the markets that we are entering right now, I would say these are the ones that will take the product last. They're the ones that just keep going with 4 or 5 major game providers taking all their games, but they don't understand innovation. They really don't, and they have very low single-digit growth, if anything.
This podcast is sponsored by Pragmatic Solutions, the player account management platform chosen by today's smart betting and gaming operators. Don't let technical constraints delay you from achieving your business goals. Expand your business, boost your margins, and dominate the market in any leading regulated jurisdiction with our powerful, flexible, and secure iGaming platform. Enjoy its extensive marketing tools, compliance protection, real-time data, and a wide portfolio of over 1,000 industry providers. It's time to upgrade your technology. Let Pragmatic Solutions show you the modern approach. Visit pragmatic.solutions and join the smart thinkers.
This podcast is brought to you by Pragmatic Play, a leading game developer providing player favorites to the most successful brands across the industry. With an award-winning multi-product portfolio of slots, live casino, bingo, virtual sports, and more, Pragmatic Play is powering up new possibilities of play through one single API. Visit pragmaticplay.com and discover your favorite every time.
Bingo, bango, bongo. Mathias Larsson, Commercial Director Europe of Awager. Welcome to the podcast, Mathias. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all fine, thank you, Pierre. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Life is good when you sit over in Marbella with close proximity and access to golf courses and a nice work environment, isn't it?
No, indeed it is. I mean, it is getting fairly hot now, so summer is quickly approaching. But yeah, I mean, no complaints, absolutely not.
I love it. Mathias, we have a really interesting conversation in front of us today around innovation in the iGaming industry, and not exactly the usual type of conversation that we might have here when we talk about exciting innovations and how the industry is craving for innovation, but rather how difficult it is to bring innovation into the industry. Because through Awager, you are trying to build something completely different, something that no one has built before. And you are really at the front lines of going through these difficult challenges of kind of convincing operators why they should embrace kind of new innovation and be willing to try new innovation prepare. So just as a starting point here today, Mathias, do you want to talk about Awager? What's the story of this company? What are you trying to bring to the industry? And how are things going so far?
Absolutely, yeah. No, you're spot on with what you mentioned for sure. So start with a brief background. So Awager, the product in itself has been around for quite some time. I mean, 10 plus years, and I first came across it back in 2017 when I was working for Gaming Innovation Group. The name back then was the company name was Softweave. The product in itself was called Winifar. And it's basically using a physical slot machine, and through our software and hardware, we give remote access to players to play on that physical machine. So the player can be anywhere in the world, the machine can be anywhere in the world, and a player would play it either from their phone, their desktop, tablet, whatever device, and also pretty much whatever machine. Our software is completely machine agnostic. And when I first came across this site, I was like, wow, this is really out there. I've never seen anything like it. And I honestly didn't think it looked great, and I didn't fully get my head around it. But the client that the Gaming Innovation Group that had back then that wanted it was Hard Rock Casino, omni-channel, going live in New Jersey. And they were pushing hard for this. They really wanted it. And they ended up going live with it on the gig platform. but it was very much a slow release back then. But things changed dramatically. A couple of years back, the company was acquired by one of the largest PE funds in the world that took a step into the online gambling world, and that was really the starting point for Awager, because it was rebranded into Awager and also put the necessary capital in to back up the product, because it is expensive to set up studios, to acquire machines that is needed. So it was not really until then that the product could actually come to a proper life and to what it is today. And so, yeah, that's pretty much where we are today. After a couple of new versions, upgrades, I do believe we are on V3 right now. So a lot have happened in the last couple of years.
All right. So there's a lot to unpack here. So essentially, the product is a live casino type product, but instead of the traditional Evolution style dealers who are dealing you blackjack, a camera is fixated on an actual slot machine in an actual casino, in an actual studio, and the players are then able to see a camera streaming this slot machine that you can then bet on live, so to say. I mean, there's a lot of parallels here, right, to when Evolution entered the industry in the 2000s, trying to convince the operators that players really wanted to play live blackjack and live roulette, for example. Do you see yourself in a similar position today, trying to convince the operators? And feel free to correct me if I'm butchering the product.
No, you don't, not in any way. No, you fully get it, and it is right. I mean, I haven't spoken to the original Evolution guys about the time back in, I don't know, 2005, 6, 7, something like that, right, when they started coming out. But when it comes to the product, it is correct. It is. I mean, when you look at a land-based casino, primarily what you have are slot games, and Evolution, they really took that position early about bringing a land-based experience to the online world. But they did it with table games, and now they expanded into various like game shows, various other things, but more focused on the pure entertainment part. And also still, of course, very much focused on the table games. And but the company for them many years saw that, well, nobody's doing this with physical slot machines, and that's what players primarily play when they go to a land-based casino. And so that's how this whole thing was invented back then, because the player, they still want to have that complete land-based experience. It is very different from playing a digital slot game, because you can have a physical machine that have been turned into a digital game, but then you're taking a complete machine experience and then you kind of bundle it down to within 10 megabyte and pushing it out as a digital game. There's so many things that get lost along the way when it comes to sound and animation and the whole feel for a physical machine. But with our product, we can encapsulate all of that still. We don't miss out on anything there.
Yeah, but okay, so I have to ask you a few questions that I imagine that the operators are asking you as well. And again, just rewinding the time back to 2005, I imagine that these were the questions that the Evolution got at that time, which is like, why would players want to see a dealer? Why would they like to stream something? And when they can just get the traditional online experience with animated blackjack and roulette and so on, more cost efficient and these things. And I mean, similarly here, first and foremost, why do you think players want to play a slot machine that is live streamed rather than traditional animated, traditional online casino slot? First and foremost, what is it, and who is that player who is looking for that experience?
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely Evolution faced these questions as well, because back then there were multiple digital versions of roulette and blackjack, the RNG games, and they function exactly the same. It doesn't matter. The outcome is the same. And of course, back then when Evolution came and they asked for a higher rev split compared to an RNG blackjack, and then they definitely got the questions from operators. Why should we do this? If a player actually wants to play a real blackjack, why don't they go to a land-based casino? So yeah, for sure, they went through all these things that we are now going through, but the reason why players want to play this, I mean, one thing, the obvious thing is, of course, that you do have a lot of players that they don't go to land-based. They might have been, but they don't have access to a land-based casino nearby. But they want to gamble. But they've been to land-based and they played these physical machines. There are multiple titles that only exist in land-based casinos. You can't find them digitally. And those are the titles that they might want to play. And then this is the only way to play it. But it's also that the whole experience where you have the sound coming from multiple other machines. And as I mentioned before as well, the experience is so much bigger when you play the physical machines, because there's no restrictions in how much sound you can build into, how much animation you can build, how many bonus rounds you can have in there. The games are so much bigger. So it's a huge difference. So the players that come and play, and what we've seen from the US as well, is land-based players, but we also see high stakes players that they're not there just to click on the digital games and play like 100 spins in a minute. But they're not after that at all. What they want is more of an experience. They're fine with a physical machine takes longer to play than a digital one. Absolutely. But they're used to that and they're fine with that because they bet higher, they have a higher stake, and they take their time. So it's more for the high staking players and also land-based players also going online, the proper omni-channel approach.
Yeah, right. So the minimum stake would be higher than a traditional slot machine. And I presume that is also connected a little bit to scalability within this product, perhaps, where, if I understand correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there would be one player per slot machine, essentially.
Correct.
So you can't multi-play on the machine because you control it remotely, right? So how do you scale the business? Let's say that the model is there and people do want to play this product, but it must be pretty difficult to scale this as well, I imagine.
I mean, the scale simply comes down to on the one-to-one version. It comes down to we need to acquire more machines. That's the only way to scale it. And I mean, we are working on certain solutions where we can try to find ways to get more players on that one machine. But right now, it's one player per machine. And looking back, comparison to Evolution, this is what they went through with Blackjack as well. You had a maximum number of seats at the Blackjack, and then they worked out. I can't remember what they call it, but wait, a type of Blackjack you can have hundreds of players. Well, there's no limit to it, right? So we're working on these things too. But that's not what we push for, to be honest. So this is not a mainstream product. This is a niche product where we're not going to get tens of thousands of players coming in at the same time. We're going after a specific type of player, and these players, the average bet is much higher than a digital. They spend longer session times, and this is what they want. And so therefore, the scalability is not something that worries us. It costs us a lot of money, but that's absolutely fine, because once we reach that point where we need to acquire more machines, well, then we know we're making enough money to buy that next machine. So that's absolutely fine.
Right. And that become the moat in the business too, perhaps, where there is hundreds of game studios building traditional digital games. It's very simple and commoditized, whereas you are trying to do something different. And with that comes difficulties that you need to solve, but that also makes it harder to compete with you, for sure.
Yeah.
I want to ask as well, you have already signed a few massive operators as customers, FanDuel being one of them, other American operators as well. The product seemed to be quite popular, especially in that side of the pond as a starting point. It seems like you started on the US side of things. What did FanDuel and others see in the product? What was it for them that was the kind of deciding factor to take this product on? And how were the conversations with FanDuel and others when you sat in the meetings with them?
Yeah, well, for me, I wasn't there when it was signed, and we have a US team running it. But you're right, it's primarily started in the US, and we're live with Lotte Quebec as well, and have been for a few years in Canada out of their casino in Montreal, and FanDuel was the first client going live in New Jersey. Now we're live with one more client that went live this week. Can't mention who they are, but in the US, the players are different. They are more used to going to a land-based casino. And in New Jersey, of course, you have Atlantic City, and which is popular amongst players. Not as much as Vegas, but it's still popular. So the player base is somewhat larger in percentage towards the whole amount of players. So in the US, there was never any doubt that this product would work really, really well. Absolutely not. And that's why we got traction from the tier one operators in New Jersey. And to be honest, focus was only on the tier ones. There's never even been an effort to go after the smallest operators. So we got FanDuel locked in, another one went live, and then we have another really big one going live. I think it's going to be about August. So it's lined up that by start of Q4 we're going to be live with like 85% of the market. If you're looking at combined GGR across the big ones. So yeah, we locked in New Jersey, and of course in the US it's about going to the next state and the next state and the next state. So it's but there is needed separate studios, which makes it slightly more difficult, more cost consuming. So it's slightly tougher.
Yeah, do you see that in terms of the player demographics? You mentioned New Jersey, which is a state that has readily access to casinos, and there is a bit of a culture within that state with the population perhaps gravitating more towards the live casino experience. Do you see that as an important part to your player demographic when you choose potential markets to enter, for example? Do you want to choose markets that have that traditional and culture of of the population visiting actual in-person casinos, let's say? Is that part of how you choose?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, when it come down to choosing the first markets in Europe, then I mean we had a long list of variables that we looked into, but for sure, a strong land-based presence was one of them. And we ended up choosing the first two markets in Europe. Went for the UK, which has a strong land-based market, multiple casinos all across England, and many of these ones also running digital, online. So they're all omni-channel operators as well. And the second market we choose, and of course UK being the biggest one in Europe by far, right? The second one was actually Sweden, not because I'm Swedish, anyway, but it was actually because Casino Cosmopol, the only land-based casino in Sweden, we knew that they were going to shut its doors, and they did a couple of months back. So at this point right now, there's no land-based casinos in Sweden, but there are multiple players that used to come to the various casinos in Sweden. It was one in Sundsvall, Malmö, Gothenburg, Stockholm. They're all shut their doors now, and these players they still want to play the physical machines. And now we have the product, so that's the reason why we actually entered the Swedish market, and it's been very successful because the operators, they like that fact. They know that these players they know the value of these players, and they want to get them. And the only way to get them is through our product.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, talk about Sweden being a digitized and cold and grey country to the extent that people don't want to leave their doors to walk into the casino anymore. No, not a single in-person casino existing in Sweden. But to that end as well, I want to kind of shift the conversation a little bit then, because we talked earlier here of the challenges of bringing this type of innovation into the industry. And the conversation is always around operators begging for something new. They don't want another, Aztec slot or a Cleopatra slot or a Buffalo version and stuff like that. They want to see something new. But when it comes down to the table, it seems like the operators are perhaps more scared than they thought to actually pull the trigger. So I want to ask you, what challenges are you facing when you bring this type of products to certain operators or to certain markets?
Yeah, of course you're absolutely right. So, I mean, the first part is for the operator to get their head around the product in itself. It's been multiple times where we have sent over material, and then after that follow up with the demo, and even by the end of the demo, they are asking questions as if they don't understand that it's actually a physical machine, because it looks so good that you would think it's a rendering. So it's first to get their mindset about what is the product, and then to get them to fully understand the product and what can be done with it. It takes time. But I think that it comes down to how innovative an operator actually is, because all operators, they seem to scream about innovation. Oh, we want this and that, and why can't someone bring something new to the table? And when we actually do it, then they are very slow on acting upon it. They questions are fine, but just doubting the product when it's not even live in Europe. That's when I think it comes back to when Evolution started properly here in Europe. They faced the exact same thing, and they proved everyone wrong, right? And we hope to do the exact same thing. We've started doing that in the US. We see the numbers coming out from the clients going live that this absolutely works. And so I see it like cutting down the industry in half. You got operators that saying that no, we don't understand this. We want to wait until you're live, and then after that maybe we'll jump on the bandwagon. And then you have other operators that just absolutely love it, and it's so interesting because I mean I've been having demos with RNG games for I don't know, soon 15 years. But I've never had this amount of interesting conversations with operators, even if they don't end up taking it. But it's so interesting because you get so many questions about it and talking about the future of the industry, and they're coming down to compliance-related matters. So many things, super interesting. But the ones that are going to be very successful are the ones going live first, and these are the ones that have told me 5 minutes into a demo that I just want it. What's the commercials? When can I take it? How do we do the integration? They see the innovation for what it is, and they understand that in order to take new players, they need something new, right? I mean, every single day we have 50 new RNG games coming to life, and they all look the same. Some of them are better than others, but it's the same thing. So how is one operator going to compete towards another unless they have something that nobody else have got? So I really see these ones going live first. They will capture a lot of players, and it's even I want to say, without naming anyone, but just simply saying that the ones that have the slowest growth on the markets that we are entering right now, I would say these are the ones that will take the product last. They're the ones that just keep going with 4 or 5 major game providers taking all their games. But they don't understand innovation. They really don't, and they have very low single-digit growth, if anything. Those are the ones that don't take it. But the others, it can be big or small. The ones with growth, they see this and they value it, and not just our product. I think that they see this in all various verticals in their company, and even in finding new ways of doing KYC. It can be anything, but these are the ones that will have the highest growth and continue to have the highest growth.
Yeah, it's the innovator's dilemma to some extent, isn't it? That when a company becomes very, very big, rather than being excited for change, they get scared of making mistakes, right? And so oftentimes the company strategy is based on just minimizing mistakes and trying to keep things as is. They become a cash cow eventually. That's the kind of essence of the innovator's dilemma. But to that end, like, so do you see that kind of red thread between these two buckets of operators, those that are embracing innovation and those that are really scared of this type of innovation? That is it, as you say, the bigger companies, is it also a culture thing perhaps, that some cultures, let's say, are less prone to taking that risk? Like when you speak to operators in certain markets, you mentioned in the US, operators seems to be a lot more receptive to this type of product, whereas perhaps in other markets they take the other way. Do you see that as well on a market-to-market basis too?
Not really. Maybe a little bit in Sweden that's have digital. I've had it for so many years, and we have so many successful Swedish both operators and providers. But at the same time, every company these days are multicultural. So it's more about the people behind it. So I can't really say I see too much of a difference. I mean, of course, the one part of the industry that stands out for a product like ours are the ones that can do omni-channel, and which is now, of course, impossible in Sweden. But you have a few ones in the UK that have a proper omni-channel where they have both the land-based offering and the digital ones, and they try to bring players from land-based into digital. These ones, they love what they see for sure. It's because that's their key of standing out from everyone else, and they need to have these type of products, and that's where you will also see that they have their own dedicated live casino studio inside their premises in the UK and so on and so forth. So yeah, they would be the ones standing out but there's slightly different objective from them, of course.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'm curious as well to discuss kind of like the sales cycle of selling a product like this, because I would imagine that you have some pretty big challenges as the commercial director, because as far as I can see, first and foremost, the sales cycle must be much longer because you are bringing a product that people don't know, so they really need to first understand that the integration might be different. How do they promote this game? So on and so forth. But you are selling, as well as I understand it correctly, only to regulated markets as well. Another challenge. The price must be higher, I can imagine, than a traditional RNG slot. So you are going in already in the sales cycle with a lot of challenges ahead of you. Can you talk about taking on a challenge like that? How do you best pitch this game, and how do you then again scale with multiple customers?
Definitely, but that was also what attracted me to this role. It was such an interesting product to see from the beginning, and that's why I jumped on board. But you're right, the sales process is longer, and that even starting with educating the market of what the product is. So our marketing spend from Awager is not about putting a banner out there, putting the name out there, because people don't know what it is. What we do is things like this, Pierre. When we're doing podcasts, we can dig deeper and putting together editorials just to try to educate the operators. What is this about? Because we need to start and having that first interaction with a potential client. Of course, with the network that I have and the other staff as well, we get to talk to operators. But then it's also about sending over, showcasing the product. That's one step. And after that, it's to have a demo. And one thing that we are not able to do is to actually give an operator login to a demo. They can't play themselves. That's just not possible, because as we said, one player per machine. So if we would send out logins to all operators, they would block the machines from actual players. So it's something that we're working on, and we want to get there, but it's a very expensive demo by setting aside so many machines, so it takes us that we need to have the face-to-face meetings. That's what we need to do. And when we do that, we can just hand over my mobile phone. That's what I favor the most. Just hand it over and let the operators play. And that's when they finally grasp the product. That's when they understand it. And then after that, you mentioned as well with the price. Yeah, the price is higher because our cost is so much higher than an RNG. It's still not like crazy high in any way. It's coming up to double digits, but it's not too much more than that. So I still get with certain operators that they then still want to compare that the price of an RNG game provider. And once we start going down that route, then I know that, okay, this is going to be a really tough one, because then they still don't fully understand that this is a product to bring in new players. It's not about shifting the players from an RNG game into our products. If you try and do that, you failed, because then your margin is just suffering, unless the players really like this and they will play a lot more. But the easier conversation is, say, you bring in fresh new players that don't touch your RNG games. Maybe they're a live player today, but they don't go into digital RNG games. So maybe this is the way for you to bring them over. So it's about having that conversation with them and having them look at their own player database and to see where we fit in, basically. But yeah, the process is longer, or as I mentioned as well, the process can be incredibly short if you have someone like a couple of the ones that we actually very soon sign in Europe, where they just jump on it, they love it, and then you'd be okay. Well, here we go. Then it's a fast one. I had one case where I discussed commercials. And then the person on the other side was actually, well, I expected it to be a lot higher than that, and the rev split. I said, well, I appreciate that, but yeah, this is it. Okay, I love it. Perfect. Send me the contract right away. So it's either really short or it drags out forever.
Yeah, and then Mathias can go out and play golf
Exactly, and those are the short ones that I like.
Brilliant. What would you say, Mathias, are the biggest challenges that you're facing as a company? Again, like you're really trying to do something different here, and there is a lot of barriers in front of you, right? I would imagine latency is a big question, for example. Like, what are the biggest challenges of building this company and building a great product?
I mean, there's so many moving parts, and that is really the challenge. I mean, now that we're ramping up, going live in Europe, so the one thing is we're setting up a studio in Vilnius in Lithuania. So that's a whole studio now being built, and the first we're taking 2 units in almost like a warehouse space where we can fill in about 400 machines. But that is the whole studio build up. And that's one massive moving part, and then we have the physical machines themselves, which we acquire from the manufacturers. So the most important one in Europe, like you mentioned, the Novomatic, we'll be getting a deal with them where they will then build a machine for each of our market, and then ship them over to our studio in Vilnius. And then it's the integration with operators, which is not really different from an RNG. It's still a seamless wallet integration. It's not different in that sense. Then it's more about how do the operator, where do they position our games, and how do we work with multiple thumbnails, which it is from of course having hundreds of machines. So it's not really technically the challenge. The latency is not of issue for us at all. It's more about that there's so many moving parts that needs to fit together at the same time. Because, I mean, we don't want to sit with a full studio of hundreds of machines and not having enough players. But at the same time, we don't want to have an integration ready, and then we're waiting to get the studio ready. Then the operator's not happy with that. So it's about timelines and making sure that this quite complex puzzle is coming together. That's really it. And then it's also with the regulators. We have the SGA license in place, and we're in the process with the UKGC to get the license there as well. But this is a brand new product, so there will be questions, absolutely. And operators are asking questions. What about the certifications of each game? Well, it's a physical machine. It's certified for each and every market. Well, it's a certification for a land-based product, and then we're bringing that online. So there's a lot of like small challenges that you might not exactly think about, and then putting all that puzzle together. So I mean, once you live with the first client, and the first studio, it goes so much easier. But that first one, it's tough, but it's an amazing ride at the same time, though.
Yeah, when it rains, it falls, as I say. Like it's also when you get the first clients on board, it's easier to get further clients for sure. I want to ask as well. So there's another dynamic here, which makes you different than a traditional game studio. A traditional game studio would build their own games, their own titles, and sell those to the operators. In this case, if I understand it correctly, you would sign licensing agreements with already existing land-based studios, right, to bring the most popular titles to the players, right? So I would imagine in the U.S. that you work with several land-based studios to then license these machines into your studio and then stream it to the players. Am I right in that regard? Like, so you work
Absolutely.
with several game studios then, and you are kind of the person then in the middle that brings these machines to the audience. Essentially, you don't build your own titles yet, perhaps.
No, that's absolutely correct. So in that sense, you can see us more of an aggregator, that we don't have our own content, but we get the best and the brightest content from each market. So if you look at UK, it's Novomatic is dominating the land-based casino market. So therefore, most of the games, the machines for the UK market are coming from Novomatic. They hold nearly 80% market share. And then you have a few others as well knocking on the door and trying to grow bigger. And we bring those machines in as well. One I can mention is Blueprint, for example, where we would take some of their machines as well. But yeah, absolutely right. So in each and every market, we look at the land-based market. What are the top cabinets and top titles in that market, and those are the machines that we buy. And this is a conversation with both the land-based operator and it's also with the manufacturer, and because they will tell us this is what sells, this is what we sell in that market. Okay, then those are the one machines that we buy. And it's one big difference between the US market and Europe is that you have multi-titles. So in Europe, if you go and play an Novomatic machine, you're going to have about 40 titles in one machine. In the US, it's still one title per machine. They haven't adapted that. There's a few manufacturers that does multi-titles in the US, but then maybe you're looking at 5 to 7 titles in one machine. I know Konami, for example, do that. But here we got multi-titles, and it really helps us in Europe, because then even if one machine is taken by a player, and if that player wants to play Book of Ra, for example, they can just go to the next machine and they can find Book of Ra there as well. So it's not that they have to play that machine. But funnily enough, you do have a lot of players that go by, if they enter land-based casino, they want to play that specific machine. Even at the bank of machines, they play that specific one. And they can stand there and wait for that machine to be ready, even though the next one is identical. But no, I want to play that machine. And that can be based on location, it can be on the side of a floor, or it can simply be the number of that machine. So, you have a lot of Asian players, they wouldn't touch a machine that is maybe number 40. If they see that number 4 somewhere, they're like, no, I'm not playing that one. And then they want to play that game, but they don't choose it because it's got that number on the machine. So it's a lot of these little funny things as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that is also the basis for the success of live casino in Asia to a great extent. Is the trust factor from the players, that they want to see the physical cards being dealt, for example, and they don't trust the animations. And then the superstition is on top of that too, right? And I would imagine that in your case, there's a similar player base as well, perhaps beyond just those who like to go to the physical casino, but it's also that superstition and the trust factor that comes into play as well with players who want to have that added trust, let's say, to play these machines. And also, just as a follow-up thing to that as well, you mentioned something interesting there, which is players want to. They come into your lobby and they want to play a specific machine. And in the US, when there's single title games, you might offer 3 machines of one game, 2 machines of another game, and they might be busy at that time, right? So there's like a queuing system, I would imagine too, right? Where you can't potentially play your machine at that point, but play something else for now and then wait until your machine comes available. That's what you mean. When you say that in Europe, it makes it easier than with the multi-titles, that it just enables more machine to be readily available at any given time.
Exactly that, and we do have a queuing system as well that the player will get a notification. They queue up, they click on it, very very simple, and they put the name down, the player ID down, and then they get a notification of now this machine is ready, or they simply sit and wait, because they can check from the one of the other cameras and see the outcome of the other players is playing, because it's not just one camera in front of the machine that we of course have when you actually play, but there's so many other cameras as well to cover other angles of the casino studio, or if it's a casino solution that we have with a couple of US clients where they have a separate area within the casino floor, so then players can just watch through the camera, see everything going on, and hear the sound and get the feeling of the actual casino.
Yeah, brilliant. Final two questions for you here today, Mathias. First of all, you mentioned the markets now that you're targeting in Europe specifically. You only do regulated markets, and you spoke about Sweden and the UK being 2 markets. Are those the 2 main markets that you target now in Europe, or are you looking at other markets to enter as well?
Oh, we are looking at many markets for sure. These are the 2 markets that we are going to enter in 2025. Looking forward to 2026, we have identified a few others, such as Switzerland, because that's a very close connection to the land-based casino market, because in order to run online, you have to have a land-based casino. So effectively, everyone is omni-channel, every single client, which is really, really good. We're looking at Romania. They have a very strong land-based market, and Romania is a great market as well. Downside with Romania is that we need to have the studio in Romania. Then we're also looking at Spain, which has, I would say, the highest growth on online casino as any other country in Europe. So a very interesting one. There we also need to have the studio in Spain. And then we're actually looking at Italy and Greece as well. So I want to say that those are the target countries for 2026. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are others coming up as well, because we do get some interesting inquiries from operators that have a strong market share, and then they come to us, and if they have an omni-channel, then they would say, you know what, we will host everything. The machines will be inside our casino, roped off. Of course, they have to be separated. And then they will take care of everything. We need to get licensed still, of course, if that's a need. But besides the ones I mentioned, I think there's going to be at least one, probably maybe even two, that's going to pop up, being a smaller market, but dominated by one operator. And then we go in there together with them as a starting point.
Brilliant, Martinez. And final question for you here today. Where do you see Awager in 3 years' time? What's the ambition with the company? How far are you going to take this?
It is a very, very interesting question, actually, because when you're sitting on an innovative product like this, there's just no boundaries. I mean, there's so many things that can be done with the product in itself. You can have presenters and spinning the reels. There's so many things you can build with the product in itself. But you also have right now new markets popping up. And when we see in LATAM, of course, Brazil is now regulated. It's super interesting because they haven't had land-based market for many, many years. But our product would actually be absolutely fine there. And then you have in Asia, where you having Thailand is about to become regulated, and Japan is finally going to happen. You have the Middle East and Dubai where they're building casinos. So it's on a market perspective, you got so many interesting ones popping up, really. So we are going to continue down the road with fully regulated markets for sure, and keep innovate with our product, because there's not going to be anyone else. We hold all the patents in the U.S. and mainly in Europe as well. And as I said, it's a very expensive product to build up, and so I don't really see anyone else stepping into this one. So we're going to have free reins of coming up with all funky, funny stuff ourselves and just going out to new markets. And so, yeah, it's, and there's so many collaborations that we can do as well. It can be, think of a game studio that today don't even have physical slot machines, but they want to get into that market. Well, there's no other better than to work with us then, because we will buy the machines. Of course we will. And so, yeah, it's tons of stuff that we can do. So I'm very, very much looking forward to the next 3 years, that's for sure, and 5 years and 10 years, and then we'll see what happens.
These are the early, exciting, and perhaps a bit scary days as well. Mathias, thank you so much for showing the playbook to the company, for bringing something new to the industry. It's really exciting to hear what you guys are doing, and I'm looking forward to follow up in some time and to see how the progress has been going until that point. So thank you so much, Mathias.
No, thank you much, Pierre. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.